Leaving the Gold Coast in 2005 on a 6-month journey around Australia, visiting many places like Carnarvon Gorge, Lone Hill, Kakadu National Park in the Northern Territory, Broome and the Kimberleys in Western Australia, and travelling the Western Australian coastline to Perth, across the unforgettable Nullarbor Plains via Adelaide, Sydney and back home. Our first stop was at Carnarvon Gorge, 770 kilometres from the Gold Coast, a national park, 30 kilometres long and has a 10-kilometre walkway in and out. Introducing close Marlena, Elke my wife, Tony and Irmgard. The next morning the girls prepared for a breakfast parade. Early in the morning, we went on our 10-kilometre in and out walk and some 8 or 10 little creeks we had to cross. We called them river crossings. We came across some king palms, a species which I believe to be over 1 million years old. The second day, we left at 5 a.m. in the morning with torches to climb the bluff in order to see the sunrise. How little did we know about the difficulty and the steep climb, but we realized it on the way down.
Hey, true blue.
Our next stop was Longreach, and you are looking at the Stockman's Hall of Fame, also the birthplace of Qantas. At Longreach they have the School of Air, which covers an area probably as big as Switzerland.
There's a class waiting for the studio. Well done, it's been a long lesson, and please call me back if you have any trouble with your math.
In Winton we came across the Benja Patterson Museum. He was born near Orange in New South Wales and was Australia's greatest bush poet and lived from 1864 to 1941. Bougainville, the great Australian explorers, crossing Australia in 1861. From Melbourne to the Cape of Carpentaria, 3,250 kilometres. On their way back, they perished not far away from this roadhouse. We travelled through Cloncurry, through to Gregory. I don't even know whether there's a township, I think it's just a farm. And nearby is the Gregory River, and they come annually to celebrate a canoe race, and really is in the middle of nowhere. On the way to Lone Hill, we collected some firewood because at the camping sites we went to there is not a stitch of timber to be found. It's been collected over the years. Everyone has his own campsite and a fireplace for cooking. Our campsite was at Adele's Grove, a small block of toilets and showers, cold showers, to be found at the end of the campsite. On our way to the small river, whilst having a dip, I lost my car key. Thank God, Elke had a spare one in the tent. I had to wait getting to Darwin to get a new set of keys. The second morning, we started very early in the morning, at 6 a.m. because temperatures go over 40 degrees during the day. By the time we got to the top of one of the many climbs, we all were buggered and looking for tree and shade. However, Elke and I continued to the lookout. Again, we left first thing in the morning. to the gorge to do a canoe trip. I remember Irmgard, our friend, sitting in the canoe. I think the whole canoe was shaking. She was so scared. The water you're looking at seeps through from the Barkly tablelands, and the water runs all year round. And the colours of the canyon were outstanding. After 4 days at Lone Hill, we moved on to the Devil's Marbles, near Tennant Creek. Note the children, 1 Aboriginal and 1 white child. Daly Waters was our next stop, in the middle of nowhere, ever known in Europe as a travel destination to the Lonely Planet.
There's a message from the outback, a murmur.
And the pub not far away from there is where they filmed Crocodile Dundee.
In ancient voices sounding out a warning.
Katherine, our next stop, where we all took a helicopter ride to view the famous Katherine Gorge. From here, we decided to travel to Kakadu National Park, which claims to be the biggest inland wetland lake in Australia. And an early morning trip on the Yellow River, we saw some magnificent scenery and wildlife. And I saw my first caribou, which is a famous bird up in that part of the region. And probably the biggest saltwater crocodile I've ever seen.
She was standing in the water, eating a pumpkin scone, when splash, she was gone. And they were doing the crocodile roll, the woman and the reptile doing the crocodile roll in the middle of the river. Down came her husband with a gun and a carving knife to slaughter every crocodile for taking his darling wife. Splash. It was in the news, and they were doing the crocodile roll, the husband and the reptile.
And the next day, we looked at some Aboriginal rock paintings.
I've been around the world a couple of times or maybe more. I've seen the sights, I've had the lights on every foreign shore.
From here we travelled to Darwin, but we stayed outside in Darwin in a caravan park to enjoy a few days of rest.
What do we tell them? Give me a home among the gum trees with lots of love.
Then we travelled south to the Least Tilt National Park and experienced a bushfire not far from our stay. Also visiting nearby the Lost City, an amazing rock formation. The sandstone is estimated to be over 500 million years old. and then all the waterfalls, all speaking for themselves of a natural beauty. We even had a group of monks passing us, but it was so quick I couldn't even get a photo of it. Heading down further south, we visited Edith Falls, not far from Katherine. The walk took almost all day to walk around the waterfalls. From here we travelled via Katherine to Kununurra, Western Australia, a township of some 6,000 people. And the scenery, I can only say, speaks for itself. The town was like a cowboy town. I've never seen so many four-wheel drives in all my life. The old causeway in Kununurra is still used by some just to save 30 minutes of travel to get home. As you look to the top of the wall, you see Close and Tony travelling the road of the dam holding the waters of Lake Argyle. A short boat trip looking at some wildlife. Again, we saw the jabiru, which is very rarely seen in that area. They say freshwater crocodiles don't attack. Looking at this fellow, I wouldn't want to find out. And the spitting fish. Where am I going to put the broom? Celebrating Tony's birthday before they left without us for the Bungle Bungles. We met up again at Fitzroy Crossing Caravan Park.
There's a message from the outback.
The famous Fitzroy River pub, where no Aboriginal women are allowed to come in. They hang about in the dry riverbeds with the kids, while the boys or the men come into the pub and have a drink. Well known at Fitzroy Crossing is Gaggy Gorge.
You've taken all you wanted. I heard the anguish cry.
You're looking at what was millions of years ago part of an ancient barrier reef.
This is Australia calling.
Travelling on to Derby, a small township, from where we visited by seaplane one of the great world wonders, the horizontal waterfall at Talbot Bay. because of the ocean tide, the water can rise and fall by 7 meters. The water between the two entrances releases 1 million liters of water every second through the narrow gorges, and the current is so strong that a normal dinghy would get pulled under. Yes, you are looking at white sharks, which they hand feed at night time. Now we are at Broome, at the famous Cable Beach, known for its sunset, camel rides, beach barbecues and four-wheel driving. About 2 kilometers east along the beach is a rocky outcrop where at low tide one can see the footprints of dinosaurs, 130 million years old, and the only place in Australia where they can be seen. I found it amazing just standing in front of it. The coastline is so colourful red. My friends had to collect some rocks which they took back all the way to the Gold Coast. I let the next photos tell the stories of the most beautiful sunsets of Cable Beach, the camels, and driving at night time. Another unique phenomenon of Broome is the staircase to the moon. When at low tide, the moon rises out of the ocean and gives a reflection over the mudflats, giving it an appearance as a staircase to the moon. Travelling the famous Gipp River Road in the Kimberley to the Mitchell Waterfalls took almost 3 days over some very rough terrain, and some people have travelled the Gipp River Road to get to the Mitchell Waterfalls, only to find out there was not a drop of water coming down. What a disappointment that would have been. How on earth did this chook get into my car? Leaving Broome and travelling towards Port Hedland, looking at an Ainoa train which was about 1.6 kilometre long. And Port Hedland is also known for its enormous salt mining. We moved on to Karijini National Park, 335 kilometres inland from Port Hedland. We stayed there for 3 days and explored the many gorges. I suppose the most outstanding and amazing gorge was the Hancock Gorge. The colours were just breathtaking. The Hamersley Ranges has more than 20 gorges. The rusty cliffs are indeed covered with rust. It is estimated the rock was formed some 2.5 billion years ago, and the colours are of red, brown and bluish rock. We moved on for a couple more nights to Tom Price, probably the biggest iron ore mine in Australia. Our next stop was Exmouth, where we ate the biggest and best prawns I've ever eaten. Exmouth, also home of the famous Ningaloo Reef, and one can see the most pristine blue water. It's just crystal clear and beautiful to look at. And here we're walking another one of those famous gorges, and I think my friends are blessing the flowers. Some 150 kilometres further down south is Coral Bay, where a fishing boat just returned from the reef with a catch most people would just dream about. And just south of Carnarvon we experienced the most amazing fields of wildflower. Some travellers never see them. We were just amazed with the colours. The rough coastline outside Carnarvon. Arriving at Denham, another beautiful little township, and Elka has done the laundry for the day. The view of the ocean, where we parked our caravans, could not have been more perfect. The head gasket of my Subaru blew up. What an experience. Geraldton, our next stop, where we explored the sand dunes. And had a nice happy hour. Now, from Geraldton we travelled 100 kilometres inland and viewed natural reefs. I think that's what you call them. I believe the only place in the world where they can be seen in the wild. It was just amazing, the colour, and it was so isolated. There was nothing anywhere, no townships, no nothing to be seen. There are so many natural wonders along the Western Australian coastline, like the limestone pinnacles at Javantis, 250 kilometres north of Perth. New Nausea was founded by Spanish Benedict monks in 1847, 130 kilometres north of Perth. There were well over 100 monks. They came to teach Christianity to the Aboriginals. Today there is only a handful left, and they live just from tourism. I can remember they baked the most beautiful bread. The Wands boarding school are now empty. At last we arrived at Perth. A short visit to Fremantle, and that could be me arriving as a migrant in 1955. Or from Perth we travelled to Margaret River and visited the famous limestone cove. Still at Margaret River we visited the Channel coast and the experience of some very heavy swell. The Cape Leeuwin Lighthouse is where the Indian and the Southern Ocean meet. Walpole, I think it's called Walpole, is where you'll find the red tinjal. It is the largest tree in Western Australia and can grow up to 60 metres tall. It is also known as the Valley of the Giants and has an outstanding treetop walk. Albany, a little township south, probably the furthest southern point of Western Australia, was our next stop to see our first power generating windmills. Further, to visit the Natural Bridge and the famous blowholes. Cape Naturalize would be one of the windiest places one would visit. And the nearby beaches were almost white, and walking on them felt like walking on snow. At last we arrived at Kalgoorlie, which has the biggest open cut gold mine in the world, 3.8 kilometers long and 1.4 kilometers wide, also known as the Super Pit. They're estimated to be closed by 2034. Crossing the Nullarbor Plains starts with a straight stretch, 146.6 kilometers, not one bend in the road. The whole distance across the Nullarbor is 1,320 kilometers, and it took us almost 3 days. At the halfway stop at a service station, I counted 72 wheels on a road train. Towards the end, we stopped at Fowler Bay, some 900 kilometers west of Adelaide, to watch the southern right whales. Fowler Bay is flanked by a 100 kilometers long cliff up to 90 meters high and gives the ideal location for the whales to mate and have their calves. From here, via Adelaide, we made our way to Sydney. Be there for the birth of beautiful Sophie, our second granddaughter, on the 17th of September 2005.